Welcome all, dear friends. Myself, Dr. Amul Mahipati Lathe, working as an assistant professor, Department of Environmental Science. Today, I'm going to deliver a lecture on a topic, solid waste management. As we know that in a rapid pace of development, the world is facing a different type of environmental issues like air pollution, water pollution, then noise, radioactive land or soil pollution. And another important aspect of the issues is the global warming and the climate change. Among these different environmental issues, one of the most serious concern before the policymakers or the specifically the urban areas dwellers is the issue of solid waste. In this particular lecture, we are going to study the different aspect of the solid waste. The content of this lecture is the definition of solid waste, then types, its classification, then characterization of solid waste. Then in another part, we are going to study the waste generation statistics or the waste generation quantification and the causes of waste generation. There are again, in another part, we are going to study the different steps which are involved in the waste management process. And the problems or the issues which are again going to faced by the management practices during the solid waste management issues. Then there are different type of waste disposal methods which are being currently practiced in a different urban local bodies or the urban centers. And at last, I'm going to suggest some perspective plans or better steps for the effective waste management. So we are here going to study one by one. Firstly, we will going to study what is meant by the solid waste. The term solid waste is any unwanted material which is thrown out in the environment by the human being. For example, we are bringing a biscuit or a chocolate from a shop. We are consuming that biscuit or a chocolate by torn that particular wrapper. And after consuming, we are throwing that wrapper or the pocket of the biscuit in our dustbin. That wrapper or packet is become itself a waste. It's a simple example of the solid waste. Then there are another definition. There are number of definitions is being there. The waste which is generated in a solid state, particularly as a result of various human activities, that is the during residential activities or the commercial activities, and normally which is described as a useless or unwanted material are known as a solid waste. According to the Ministry of Environment and Forest, they have launched a particular word for the municipal solid waste or the term which includes the commercial and residential waste which is generated in municipal or notified areas, means the waste which is generated in the jurisdiction of municipal council or the municipal corporation. These waste are recognized as a municipal solid waste, which is in either solid or in a semi-solid form. So these are some common definition of the solid waste. Then in the next part, there are different type of solid waste which are recognized as present. For example, municipal solid waste. In a previous slide, we have also already studied that what is meant by the municipal solid waste. That is simply the waste which is being generated in the municipal notified areas or in the jurisdiction of municipal corporation. That is simply called as a municipal solid waste. The second type of solid waste is the industrial waste. The waste which is being generated during the manufacturing process. We are processing the raw waste and preparing a final product, or we call that a byproduct, And after that processing, there is a remains of that waste is particularly called the industrial waste. Again, the characterization of the industrial waste is again depends upon the use of raw material, therefore manufacturing processes, and different type of aspects which are again involved in that particular industries. That means it is vary from industry to industry. Then there is a third type of waste, which is called as a hazardous waste. Hazardous waste means the waste which is having a properties like flammability, ignitability, or the corrosivity, and the carcinogenicity. These are the some common properties of that waste that is recognized as a hazardous waste. Then another type of the solid waste is electronic waste. We are using in our daily life different type of electronic gadgets or appliances, and after the completion of their life cycle or due to some unavoidable reasons we are throwing that waste is become as a electronic waste. Then the another important type of waste which is called as a biomedical waste, which is again generated from a different type of clinics or the hospitals or the health centers, that is the cotton bulbs or the wound healing materials or different type of materials which is again generated during the health practices or the medical practices. So these are the some common type of solid waste. But among these type, we are major concerned about the municipal solid waste, as we are dealing to particularly this aspect in our day-to-day life. Then, after studying the types of solid waste, there is a classification of particular these municipal solid waste. Again, this municipal solid waste is broadly classified into two types. First is a degradable solid waste, or the degradable portion of solid waste, and another is a non-degradable portion of the waste. Among the degradable category, there are different type of waste. For example, food waste, then paper waste or the paper material which is thrown away, then leather material, then the fine earth and the ash material. During the sweeping or street sweeping activities, these material is mostly we called it as a generated during the sweeping activities. Then the second category, among which the non-degradable issues, or we call it as a non-degradable items particularly, that is the plastic material, then glass, then rubbers and metals. These are some common waste items which are again categorized or belongs to the non-degradable category or the class. It means that the municipal solid waste is broadly or simply classified into two types, that is degradable and non-degradable. And when we are going to study the waste generation statistics, it means that how much quantity of waste is being generated in a particular city, that is per day waste generation capacity or the per year waste generation capacity, and beside that, that is the per person per day waste generation capacity. This is being included in this waste generation statistics. Simply, particularly, if we see that as per the census of India that was completed in 2011, it is about 31% of the Indian population resides in urban areas, and this represents a population of 377 million people, which are as per the census of India. It means that most or the major portion of the Indian population is get shifted from rural areas to the urban areas in the search of different their employment, health aspect, educational facilities. These are various reasons for the shifting of this population to the particular area. So there is a direct relationship between these increasing or the increasing trends of the urban population to the waste generation. So that's why we are going to study, that is the how much percentage of the population is being resided in a urban areas or the urban center. Then these population, it generates about 1,43,449 metric tons of solid waste per day. as per the Central Pollution Control Board reports. In this solid waste, if you study that in our India, the per capita waste generation in urban areas, which is again ranges from 0.2 to 0.6 kg, means it's near about 200 grams to 600 grams per person per day. Again, this is depends upon various factors. We are going to study in another slide that aspects which are again related to the per capita per generation or the characterization of waste. Then one of the important aspect of this waste generation statistics is that in our India, whatever the waste is being generated from different activities from the residents or the peoples which are residing in that urban areas, the rate of collection, the collection of this solid waste which is being carried out by the different type of municipal councils or the corporation is only about 75% for the urban areas. And these are again reported by the Ministry of Urban Development Department. And another important aspect as far as the waste generation statistics is concerned, how this waste generation quantity data or the calculation again carried out, or these are based on a rough estimates. Means in our Indian cities, we observe that nowhere there is a weighing bridge facility is being adopted by the municipal corporations or the councils to weigh that particular waste. So means that we are calculating the waste generation quantity on the basis of a simple formula. That is, for example, it is the municipal solid waste collection. It is about the collection, not generation. Means our collection efficiency is only for 75%, and out of that 75%, that is per day, that is the waste carrying capacity of a vehicle. We are considering the most important factor. What is that? The waste carrying capacity means in suppose one city, there are different type of tippers, or there are tractors, or there are vehicles which are again being engaged for the waste carrying from city area to the dumping area. We are considering their carrying capacity. For example, if one tipper is having a 4 tons of solid waste carrying capacity into their number of trips per day. Means suppose a 4 tons capacity of tipper is going to make a trip, that is number of trips 10 trips, suppose we are considering per day. That means 4 tons into the number of trips per day, that is our municipal solid waste collection per day. So this is the rough estimates and which is being generally practiced in all over India. So that's why this formula is again very much important as far as the waste statistic is considered. Then if you study the waste generation in top 10 Indian cities, means in this table we have 10 cities which are called as top 10 cities, their waste generation tons per day, and the last column is representing the kilogram per person per day waste is being generated, that is also called as a per capita per day. For example, we are taking an example of Kolkata, that is near about 12,000 tons of solid waste is being generated per day by the Kolkata city, and the per capita generation is 0.66, means near about approximately we called it as a 600 grams. Then another example from our Maharashtra, that is Mumbai, generating near about 11,000 tons of solid waste. Then Pune generating near about 2,724 tons of the solid waste. Likewise, these are the top 10 cities in our India as reported by the Central Pollution Control Board. These cities are generating that much of the waste per day, and which is again calculated by the formula which we have already highlighted in a previous slide. Then Another aspect of the solid waste is the characteristics of the solid waste. And the characteristic of this particular solid waste is again depends or vary from place to place from where that waste was collected or generated itself. Means suppose we are taking or we are collecting the waste from a slum area, the characterization of waste is again going to a different we call it as a properties. If we are collecting the waste is being generated from the high profile societies, then this characteristic is again different. Then there are again some factors which are again influencing the quantity of waste generation, then its composition, means the degradable portion or non-degradable portion, we call it as composition. Then these are again depends upon some factors. For example, living standards of residents. Living standards means that these peoples, whether from a average income group or the below income group or a high income group, that is, and on this basis of income group, their living standards is also again depends, and on the basis of living standard, the waste generation characteristics or composition is going to change. Then the food habits of that peoples, whether these peoples are vegetarian, not non-vegetarian, again the waste characterization is going to be different. And one of the important aspect is the seasons of the year. Means waste which is being generated and collected during the rainy season, the characterization is again different. In the winter season, its characterization is different. Again, one of the important aspect as far as the seasons are concerned, we the Indian peoples are holy or the festival lovely peoples. So in the Ganesh festival, in the Diwali festival, in the Navratri festival, in the Christmas, there is a again our characterization of the composition is waste is going to change. So these are the some common aspects which are to be considered for to study the waste composition and characterization. Then there is another study which was carried out by the NERI people and the Central Pollution Control Board, that Indian municipal solid waste contains large fraction or a large amount of organic fraction of the waste, that is the degradable portion, that is 30 to 40%, then ash and fine earth. This particular material is collected during the street sweeping activities which are on the daily basis in a different cities, that is near about 30 to 40%, and the paper, that is 3 to 6%, along with plastic and glass metal, which are again categorized as a non-degradable material or a recyclable material, that is less than 1%. So this is the characteristics of the municipal solid waste in a particular area. Then what are the causes of increasing this solid waste? In a previous slide, we have already studied that in our Indian cities, how much quantity of waste is being generated per day. And here we are going to study what are the causes of increasing the quantity of solid waste generation. So these are the some common points we have to be considered for this study. That is, the first is increase in human population. As we know that before independence or at the time of independence, the India has having a population of near about 40 crore. And at this situation, we have crossed our a population or a number of population that is near about 130 crores. It means that this increase in human population is one of the important aspects, as the per capita per day waste generation is being increased as the human population is going to be increased. So there is a direct relationship between the human population and the per capita waste generation is to be considered. Then another aspect is the migration of rural people to the urban areas, because most of the rural population or the peoples, for the different purposes or for due to the different reasons, for example in the search of employment, in the search of better health or the education facilities, this population is get shifted to the urban areas, And once they get shifted to the urban areas, the size of the city is also going to be increased, means there is an increase in the population of urban residents, which is again going to directly affect the waste generation statistics. And it may ultimately leads to the another or third point is the process of urbanization. And this process of urbanization itself speed up or gear up the per capita per day waste generation. Then another important point is the rising of living standard or standards of living. As the peoples are getting the employment or the better health facilities or the educational facilities, particularly in the urban centers, they their income group, or we call it as income level, is going to be increased. And due to the increasing income level, their standards of living is also going to be increased. Then the another process is of industrialization. Although industrialization doesn't play a direct role in the generation of waste in an urban center, but the process of industrialization is directly responsible for attracting the rural population to the urban centers in the search of better employment facilities. So the industrialization is one of the important aspects as far as the increase in a solid waste is generated. And at last, there are different or overall human development in various fields, in health sector, in technological sector, in automobile, in this industrial sectors. These developments may also gear up the process of increase in the quantity of solid waste. So these are some common or basic points which have to be considered before to start the study of actual the process of solid waste management. Then there is some steps which are again involved, or the process which is involved in the solid waste management. So these are some common steps or basic steps which are again involved in the process of solid waste. For example, generation of waste, then collection of waste, then storage of waste, segregation of waste, then transportation of waste, that is from storage sites to the dumping sites, from city area to the dumping site, that transportation, we call it as transportation of waste. And the last one is the disposal of the treatment facilities or the treatment methods which has been employed by particular that city area. So we are going to study these steps or processes one by one. For example, so these are some representative photographs of a city area or an urban area where we are employing or using the facility or the step of municipal solid waste collection activities. There are dustbins which are again used at a household level or the society level. We are using such type of dustbins for waste collection. Then these are some vehicles, or we call that as a transportation material which is being used by the municipal corporation for the collection of waste. These are municipal corporation sweepers or the workers. Every day these people are again engaged in a street sweeping activities and collection of waste and carrying these waste to the another, that is tricycle stand, they are going to use, or there are different type of RCC, reinforced cement concrete waste bins or dustbins are again used in our city areas for the collection of waste. So this is the common practice which is being used for the collection of municipal solid waste in a urban areas. Then these photographs are again about the waste storage spots and open dumps. Whatever the waste is being collected by these sweepers not going to directly collecting that waste and transporting to the dumping site, but they are collecting that waste and transporting to the waste storage spots. So these waste storage spots are nothing but there are some open plots or the areas which are available in that particular colonies or in societies. These peoples are carrying that waste to that particular waste storage spots, and there are some open dumps Also, these pictures we are observing from all we call it as the city areas. In your city areas also you are observing such type of pictures that peoples are collecting or transporting the municipal corporation workers that waste from our residential area to these open spots or dumps areas. Then the another important aspect is the segregation of waste. Actually, nowhere we found that the municipal councils or the corporations are again engaged in the segregation of waste at generation or the source site itself or at the time of collection. Instead of that, most of the we called as a non-formal workers, that is rag pickers, and particularly the women and small children are engaged in the process of segregation of waste, but these are not again related to any councils or corporations, means they are not authorized workers, but they are just going to fulfill their livelihoods. These peoples are searching or segregating the waste, collecting particularly the recyclable material like plastic, glass, or rubber, and they are going to sell that material to the scrap merchant and getting money from that. So means in the search of livelihood, these peoples are again engaged in the process of solid waste management, that is the segregation of waste. Then as far as the transportation of this waste, whatever the waste is being stored in open dumps or storage spots, which are highlighted in a previous slide, that waste is being again transported or collected and transported from city areas to the dumping sites or the dumping areas for further process. Then these are some photographs of the disposal methods which are being practiced by the municipal councils or the corporations. That is, in some cases, there is open burning, landfilling practices, then just open dumping practices is being carried out by using some JCBs and compactors. There are some authorities are again monitoring or taking a survey of these municipal solid waste practices. So these are some common steps which are again involved or we observe in a solid waste management practices. And these are not an example of one city. We found these municipal solid waste management practices in all over India. These practices are common. After studying the steps or processes of solid waste, then there are some again problems during this municipal solid waste management practices. For example, the first major hurdle in this municipal solid waste management we found, that is the adequacy in the baseline information. So what is the baseline information? The baseline information about the municipal solid waste management. It again includes how much number of waste collection being or the dustbins are used in a particular area, how many workers are again engaged for the municipal solid waste management. So these are some common or basic baseline information. Apart from that, we have already focused that issue, that is the waste generation statistics, and it is again estimated by the rough calculation. There are no any scientific method, or we call that as a weighing method is being applied. So means whatever the information or the baseline information we had, that is nearly about available on the basis of our general considerations only. So that is the major hurdle in the municipal solid waste management. Then there are some issues like a problem of collection, the waste collection bins, lack of waste segregation activities or the facilities, then problems at waste storage spots or the open dumps, problems during the transportation of waste or the disposal, then leachate problem, feeding of stray animals on solid waste, drainage blocking due to uncollected waste, and lack of safety equipments, that is personal protective equipments, we call it as PPE. These problems which are facing in the municipal solid waste management, again supported with the photographs. First, that is the problems of collection bins. What it reflects, generally these collection bins are kept by the municipal corporation to throw the waste into the bins by the concerned residents or the peoples. But we are going to observe that instead of putting or keeping that solid waste into that waste bins, we are throwing that waste outside the waste collection bins. It means it again going to difficult to collect that waste by the sweepers or the workers which are again engaged in the waste collection activities. So that is the one of the problem. Another problem is that whatever the animals, particularly these stray animals again make taking out that waste material and spreading all over in that particular area. So means the objective of collection bins is not achieved here due to the reluctant approach of that residents and the monitoring authorities also. So that is the first issue which we are going to observe in all over cities or urban areas. One of the important aspect, as we discussed, that is the waste segregation activities. As we know, the municipal corporations are again not engaged in the segregation activities at collection site or at a generation site. In most of the cases, particularly women and small children, we call them as a rag pickers. These rag pickers are again going to separate or segregate that waste. They are picking only the glass bottles, plastic, or the metal parts. These peoples have developed their own practices and they are collecting that waste and get transported to the scrap merchant. They are sold out that material and bringing or taking the money for their livelihoods. We consider them uh, as one of the scavengers. These rag pickers are also play an important role. In one of the photograph, they have developed their indigenous technology. That means they have used some magnets to segregate the metallic part from the heaps of the waste. Only once they are going to spread that uh, material or the magnet, they are moving that magnet. Whatever the metallic material present in that particular heaps of solid waste, they are going to attach to that particular magnet. So in this way, these rag pickers are again engaged in the practices of waste segregation at collection site or at dumping site itself. Another important aspect or the issues which are we are going to observe in waste management practices, that is problems during transportation of waste. If you see the municipal solid waste management handling rule, now it is 2016. Earlier it was in the 2000 itself. As per the municipal solid waste management handling rule and the guidelines of the Maharashtra Pollution Control Board or the concerned state pollution control board or the central pollution control board, each municipal corporation is how to cover that transportation vehicles or waste transportation vehicles during transporting the waste from city area to the dumping site. But in most of the cases, we will find that these practices are not observed, or we call it as a practicized by the concerned peoples. So whatever the collected waste, some of the portion of the waste is again going to spread in a city area during the transportation practices itself. Then another important point is the leachate problem due to the municipal solid waste which is generated or collected and transported to the dumping site. This problem is particularly severe in the case of dumping site. During particularly rainy season, whatever the rainfall or the rainwater is being fall on these heaps of solid waste, the material or the water is get percolated through these heaps of solid waste, and there is a formation of leachate. And in this leachate, there is a vector-borne diseases or the vectors of some epidemic diseases like mosquitoes and other insects are going to born, or they are considered as these are a vector-borne diseases sites or the breeding sites for these particularly insects. So this leachate is going to emerged out a different type of epidemic diseases, particularly in the vicinity of the dumping sites or the dumping areas. And in our Maharashtra or in our state, we are commonly hearing, or we have heard some news through the electronic media. We are reading some newspapers, particularly in the Pune, in the Mumbai region, where the dumping site of the peoples which are in vicinity, residing in the vicinity of these dumping sites, they are facing a lot of problems due to this leachate. Because another important issue due to this leachate is the percolation of this material in underground water, and the peoples who are consuming that water through bore wells or the different type of dug wells, they are facing another health issues which are being emerged out due to this leachate problem at a dumping site or in particularly in the vicinity of dumping site itself. Then one of the common picture which is being observed in the urban centers or in city areas, whatever the waste which is collected at a waste bin site or in open dumps, most of the stray animals, particularly goats, sheep, then cows, buffaloes, dogs, these stray animals are continuously feeds on such type of material, because in search of food material, these animals are making or spreading that waste in a area, and these animals are feeding on that particularly the waste material. Sometimes this waste material or the food material which is gets spoiled, we are throwing that material from our houses to on this dumping ground, and these stray animals are taking that material. In particularly my observation, I have found that there are some animals, particularly the dogs, becomes violent, and there are some dog bite cases where again observed in urban centers or urban areas due to improper disposal or improper waste collection activities and the feeding of stray animals on that particular waste material. Then there is another aspect of the issue which is being faced by the urban, we call it the department or the municipal councils, particularly during the rainy season. Due to the uncollected solid waste, there is a problem of drainage blocking, because whatever the waste we are collecting, only a 75% of the waste which is being generated, and remaining waste which was left out at a city, particularly the plastic material, this material is get flowed either by wind or either by the storm water or a rainfall or during the rainfall season in the gutters or in the nalas. And as this material is non-degradable material, so they are going to choke your gutter systems or nala systems. So these are the some photographs which has been taken after or during rainy season. After once the water is get flowed, whatever the material has choked in that nalas or in gutters. So this problem is most severe in urban center due to the uncollected waste. And again, we are going to face a problem of floods, particularly in Mumbai in 2005. In July 2005, we have faced a problem. So the one of the culprit for this flood situation is we call it as a plastic, that is the uncollected waste that is responsible for such type of flood situations in a city area. Then another important aspect as far as the waste personals or the waste management personals or staffs, particularly the sweepers, again engaged in the practices of waste collection. As we consider the health aspect of these persons, it is very essential to use the safety measures, or we call them as a personal protective equipments, PPEs. So these PPEs, actually these PPEs is to be provided by the municipal councils or the corporation, that is the urban local bodies in that particular area. Actually this material, what does means the personal protective equipments? It includes shoes, hand gloves, mask, then gum boots. Actually is to be provided by the corporations or the councils to these workers. But beside that, these workers, commonly we observe that these workers are not using such type of protective equipments. In our photographs, we are uh, easily observing that without using shoes or gum boots or gum shoes, without using a hand gloves, without using a mask, these persons are consistently engaged in waste collection activities from different areas of the city. However, due to such negligence approach of these workers, they are again facing a different type of health issues which are emerged due to the non-use of such type of personal protective equipment. So these are the some common aspects which are again observed during the waste management practices or the processes. Then after studying the problems which are again facing in the municipal solid waste management, we are here going to study there is a relationship, or what is the urban local bodies role in a municipal solid waste management, or how the urban local bodies are again going to responsible for the municipal solid waste management. As far as the roles and responsibilities of the municipal councils or the urban local bodies are concerned, the municipal local or the municipal solid waste management is an obligatory function of urban local bodies. Again, urban local bodies means the municipal councils or the corporation. In some cases, there are cantonment areas. In some cases, there are authorities areas. So these are considered as urban local bodies, and they are again responsible for the waste management practices in their jurisdiction only. In each municipal corporation, there are a separate department to look out the solid waste management, that is called as a solid waste management department. And each municipal corporation is going to incur the expenditure on a different aspect which are again involved in the municipal solid waste. For example, whatever the manpower is get employed or deployed for the waste management. For example, there are sweepers, supervisors, sanitary inspectors, or the workers. Then environmental officers are also engaged in such type of waste management practices. And for their salaries or for their wages, in some cases, the corporation is going to deploying its staff on a contractual basis or going to offer a contract to the particular private company also. In some cases, we have observed it. Again, the municipal councils or the corporations, or here we broadly we call them as a urban local bodies. They are using the waste collection bins, or they are again responsible for the erecting or installation of waste collection bins, employing of transportation facilities, that is different type of transportation vehicles are again engaged for the transportation of waste, and the waste disposal techniques. So there are different type of waste disposal technique is again engaged during this process. Then another important aspect as far as the urban local bodies are concerned, every year these municipal councils or corporation have to submit their environmental status report. We call in short or in abbreviated form is ESR. And these ESR is to be submitted to the concerned state pollution control board every year through these municipal corporations or councils. And in this year's ESR or environmental status report, there is a major concern is about the solid waste management itself. So this is the relationship between or the role of municipal councils or the urban local bodies in a case of solid waste management. Then in last part, we are going to study there are some waste disposal methods. These waste disposal methods are again practiced in different cities. There are different waste disposal methods or techniques is being employed or used by the concerned councils or the corporations. But here we are again going to study there are some common methods which are being employed for the waste disposal or the particularly the municipal solid waste. So the first, that is the direct burning. So people, particularly the resident or the people residing in urban areas who are not interested or not having a time to throw their waste in a collection bins or the waste bins or to the dumping site, these people are just directly burning that waste. Particularly, it belongs to the gardening waste or the garden waste that is get directly burned out. So this is the waste disposal method. But this is an unscientific method we have to be considered, as this direct burning method, it may create a problem of air pollution. So this direct burning is again, it is not allowed or not permitted. If you see the provisions of Municipal Solid Waste Management Handling Rules 2016, if you are going to burn the waste or you are burning directly this municipal solid waste, you will make a fine by the concerned corporation or the concerned council. So these waste practices is not considered as a safe or a scientific method. Then there is another method, we call it as a landfilling method. Apart from landfilling, in some cases, there is the open dumping practices is being generally carried out by some corporations or the council due to the lack of such landfilling facilities. But in some metropolitan cities where the corporation is spending a lot of expenditure on the waste disposal facilities, they are going to adopt a sanitary landfilling practices. In such type of landfilling filling practices, in such cases, the waste is dug or dumped into a large pit, and this pit is considered having a high density polyethylene liner or the we call it HDPE polythene sheets, and we are throwing or putting that waste on this material, having a alternate layers of soil, then a portion of particularly the degradable and non-degradable solid waste. And after filling that particular site, it is get covered with a soil and it is kept as it is for a long period of time. That is a sanitary landfilling practices, which are again going to avoid a problem of leachate formation, then the formation of vector-borne diseases. That is, it is considered as one of the scientific method, that is the landfilling or sanitary landfilling. And during the construction or during the installation of such type of sanitary landfilling facilities, there are again some points which has to be considered, that is selection of sites, survey of site, monitoring of sites, then construction of site. Then there are some legal and technical issues are again involved in this sanitary landfilling practices. Then The most common practices which is being adopted for the waste disposal method is the composting methods. In the composting method, generally, whatever the degradable portion of the waste, that is the organic fraction or the degradable portion of waste, this degradable portion of waste is being converted into the simpler inorganic form, and that we considered as them as a compost material. Or in this composting material, again this composting is carried out by the two different ways or methods, that is aerobic composting and anaerobic composting. Among the aerobic composting method, again we have two different methods, that is aerobic composting methods, which is carried out in a particular metallic containers or in a barrel method. It is called as a aerobic composting method. In this method, the one metallic barrel is fabricated in such a way that there is one we call as a pipe, and this barrel is having a holes, that is perforation to enter air from outside to the inside. Then there is a perforated pipe. Whatever the degradable solid waste is going to be fed in that barrel, and it's kept for a near about 30 to 40 days. And after completion of 30 to 40 days, that waste or the organic fraction or the degradable fraction of waste is being get outside in the form of compost material. So that is the one of the unit, that is the aerobic composting unit. Then another general method for the waste disposal or the aerobic waste composting is the vermi box or vermicomposting method. In this vermicomposting methods, we are again going to use some plastic vermi box, or we are going to construct a simple we call as a boxes or rectangular structures in which we are again going to use some percolating material, food material, then garden waste. And in this composting material, the most important is we are introducing a species of worms, that is earthworms. Particularly in our general practice, we are going to introduce a species like Isnia fotida, Isnia tigrisis. We are going to use a earthworm species in the aerobic composting or the vermicomposting process. And during this composting also, after completion of near about 40 to 45 days, we are getting a compost, and we are again going to use that compost as a fertilizer or a nutrient ingredient material for our plants also. Then there are again some methods which are being generally practiced in our urban centers. Particularly, these methods are again belongs to an anaerobic category. For example, a Bangalore method. In this Bangalore method, a pit, one of the pit is digged, and that pit we are putting the solid waste, one layer of solid waste and one layer of night soil, one layer of again solid waste, another alternative layer of a night soil, and that is get covered with again a layer of soil. So this is a common method, but due to some disadvantages, this Bangalore method is nowadays is not practiced in a urban centers, as it again having a problem of odor or a nuisance due to the night soil or during the composting process itself. Then there is again an indoor method is again used. This is again similar to just like a Bangalore method, but in this case only this method does not include a night soil, and here we are going to provide a facility of a supply of air in this indoor method itself. So these are some common methods, but as far as the Bangalore and indoor methods, these methods are not generally practiced in our city areas or urban that is dumping sites also. Then another waste disposal method, which is again considered as one of the important aspect as far as the revenue is going to be generated, or where that is the waste to energy production. For example, if you take Nagpur Municipal Corporation, these peoples are again in the search of production of waste to energy. Means at the dumping site, we are going to manage or going to dispose this waste in a scientific way. From that, we are going to generate a energy, and that energy is get converted into the electricity form, and that electrical energy is again to be distributed to the nearest grids for further use. So that is the one of the aspect that is considered as a waste to energy production. So these are the some common waste disposal facilities or methods which is being practiced in our India or in our city. So at last, in this particular topic, we have studied this solid waste from its definition to the last to the disposal methods. But whatever the process we have studied, we have also highlighted some issues or problems which are again responsible to reduce the effectiveness of the solid waste management. So here, my attempt is to suggest some steps for the better or the or effective solid waste management. How we are going to apply a effective solid waste management process for our city or urban centers. For example, we have to upgrade our baseline data. As I have already told that we have a data about our waste generation, that is the scientific data actually, not on the basis of rough estimates only, that is not on the basis of whatever the waste carrying capacity of the vehicles and their number of trips. This is not called a scientific data. That's the rough estimates we have considered for the generation quantity. Then collection facilities. We have an exact number of collection bins. We have an exact number of waste storage spots. We have an exact number of transportation facilities. Their waste carrying capacity is also, and their disposal methods. So these baseline data we have with our hand to make our waste management practice more effective. Then another important issue is the need of waste segregation at source itself and collection point. Means we have to segregate our waste as a degradable and non-degradable portion. Whatever the non-degradable portion or non-recyclable portion we had, that portion is have a tremendous, we called as a economic importance, because the metal, glass and plastic material or rubber material we are going to recycle, we are going to reprocess that material, and we are going to get some money from that. So the corporation or the urban local body should take a more attention towards the segregation of waste. And whatever the biodegradable type of waste which is get segregated during the source or the collection point, that waste we have a tremendous potential to convert that waste into a compost, or it act as a fertilizer to our plants. And for the effective waste segregation at source and collection point, we have to adapt, or we have to use, or the corporation should have to promote the use of color codes for waste bins, as our most of the population is again we refer them or consider them as a illiterate, or those who are not having or not acquainted with the instructions which are written on that box. So in order to understand which box is for the degradable portion, which box is for undegradable portion of the waste, we have to just simply color that waste bins. Means, for example, for the degradable portion of waste, we are going to use a green type of bucket or a color bins, dust bins. For non we call it as a degradable portion of waste, that we are going to use a red color of bucket for that. So these are some common steps we have to taken for the effective solid waste management. Then there is need to implement the guidelines which are again issued by the pollution control board, the concerned pollution control board. In case of our state, that is the Maharashtra pollution control board. Then the corporation should have to promote to use a personal protective equipments, that is PPE, to their sanitary workers, particularly the sweepers, who use the shoes, mask, or the hand gloves at the time of waste collection and waste transportation itself. Then there is a need of effective implementation of solid waste management handling rules, that is 2016, because uh, as compared to solid waste management handling rule, which was formulated in 2000, these 2016 rule having some additional guidelines, means that is, for example, if you are observing in this solid waste management rule 2016, every person or every individual is again going to responsible for disposal of his waste. So this effective implementation for of rule is needed for our waste management. And again, one of the important aspect is we have to inculcate the awareness amongst the residents or the citizens through a different, we call as a tools. For example, media. It may be the print media through newspaper, the municipal councils or the corporations or the experts in that particular area. They have to write an article. They have to take some posters. They have to give some pamphlets or the information through this media also. Then electronic media is also going to play an important role in the solid waste management aspects. So this awareness program is very, very needed. Although the urban centers are again considered as a high literacy rate as compared to rural area, our peoples are just, we consider them as educated, but there is a difference between educated and literate is a, we have to be considered, because although we have know the adverse effect of improper disposal or throwing of waste, we are not putting our waste in collection bins. We are, instead of putting that waste into collection bins, we are throwing it in open plots or in an open area. So there is a slight difference between the awareness and the educated. So in order to aware the people or to inculcate the awareness among the citizens or residents, we have to make a programs through different medias also. So in this particular solid waste management topic, we have studied a several points, start from definition to the disposal methods, and we have also studied there are some perspective steps for the effective implementation of the waste or the solid waste management practices. Then, friends, if after listening that this lecture, if you have any questions or any queries, please feel free to write me on my email amolmlatte@gmail.com. Thank you.